Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips, and it is here. The college basketball season is in full swing now. It has been a lot of fun just to see these teams kind of get a feel for themselves in these first few games of the season. Still too early to tell who's really making a name for themselves out there just yet. Obviously, we have those preseason polls, and you have an idea of who is probably going to be really good, but a long, long way to go. And his teams are kind of, I would say, really focused on the players on their roster, the players at hand and everything. I think you brought up a really good point as we got rolling here today is don't forget about those guys that have kind of come before them.
Absolutely. The ones that have set the table for you, the current player, have set the table for their coaches. And I've always argued this. Once you are a player, you are a player. So the idea of former player, that means that you are no longer associated with. I get it. Maybe you say graduated or in today's world, transfer. But for a coach, that player relationship lasts a lifetime. And last week, over about a 36 to 48 hour period, I had some players come back into my world and touch my heart again. And I want to start with a young man, Lee Uki Abernathy. Played for me at Bishop Kenrick High School. And again, another former player, dear friend, Dave Duda, reached out to tell me that Uki had lost a courageous battle against cancer. And right away, I went back to, at 15 years old, yes, he was on my team, but he had an impact on not just my career, but on me as a person. So rest in peace to Uki and to all the Abernathys who are some still in Norristown. And immediately after I took that phone call, I ran into Dave Mallon. Dave Mallon was a terrific player from Aurora, New York. Started as a freshman, fought through multiple injuries, and never had a down day. Maybe the most honorable player that I've ever had the opportunity to share with. And we had a long conversation. He was at the academy that we ran at Shawnee, and he had tears in his eyes when he started to talk about his teammates and about his memories. And so I went from this, really, I'm down about Uki, and then Dave lifts me up. And then again, over this last week, getting more information about Delonte West and people seeing him on the street, and he was in really bad shape, and caught my breath when I first was made aware that maybe that was the last time I would hear his name. And there's a certain sliver that he survived and not thriving, but it makes you recall when you coach, like our guest today, 25 years. It makes you recall and appreciate the players who have impacted you. And you hope in some way, shape, or form, you've had a very slight impact on them. And in some cases, maybe bigger than that. So anybody out there, if you've been on a team, you are always a member of that team, right? You are always a member of that program, and you are in your coach's heart and mind. So just don't reach out when you need something. Reach out to celebrate with them as often as you can. Players are like a coach's vitamin. And I want to appreciate all the young guys that I had an opportunity to work with at both Bishop Kenrick, St. Joseph's, and at Michigan. They've made me better, so thank them.
A terrific sentiment, and I think that you can really carry it into a lot of current players to see the impact that they have in real time. It's awesome to think about the players that have kind of, I think, touched your heart along the way, and sometimes better, sometimes for worse, but you learn from all of it, right?
Absolutely, positively. Every experience is a learning experience. Well stated. That might even make a Martelli Minute. And you can find the Martelli Minute on Instagram, Phil_Martelli, every morning at 6:30.
That's right.
And we really appreciate Status Solutions working to bring safety technology to our schools through the community. Safety Status Solutions has been with us since the beginning, so thank them. And if you want to learn more, statussolutions.com. So here we go. When you get up each morning, look in the mirror. How do I affect success? Whatever endeavor you're involved in, how do I affect success? Be evaluating always. Who are your rocks? What are your non-negotiables? How must I improve? When do I take needed me time? Where do I feel the most comfortable, the most productive? So they often tell you when you're writing, answer the questions: who, what, how, when, where. There they are in your own autobiography. And every day you're writing your autobiography, answer those questions. Want to be seen as a leader? First, be willing to serve. Just don't go out there puffing your chest and hiding behind a title. Go out there, get your hands dirty. That will allow you to become a more effective leader. Use your actions to lead. Basically, don't talk about it. Be about it. And this statement, I was wrong, demonstrates your courage and your intelligence, because now you're smart enough to recognize I was wrong. And then the last thing, reflecting back on the player concept, is be grateful. Be grateful for those in your lives. Jared said it really well, because those in your lives are teaching you the pluses and the minuses. So we can always be learning. And learning is right there for our guest. Quite a resume. Quite a resume. Let's start with this. Our guest is a dear, dear, dear friend for a long time. I don't even know how many years, but for a long time. A coach, one of 8, Jared, one of 8 coaches to have led her school to the NCAA tournament as a player and as a coach. The longest tenured coach in the Atlantic 10. Rolling into this year, 3 consecutive 20-win seasons. As a kid, and I use that in quotation marks, as a kid, because she's still a kid. As a kid, not 1, 2 Catholic League champions. An NBA, right? Not just some like coach that just throws on a sweatsuit, but seriously, an NBA. Oftentimes I need to talk, or at one time I talked to her about my 4 PhDs, but that's for another show.
It wasn't one of those honorary ones.
No. I think she had to produce work for this one.
Yeah.
Not just talk. A community engager. We're going to get into that. A community engager for sure. And I would bet proudest of her titles, wife and mom. And a St. Joe prep mom, which is that's like a whole another level up. Your grandmother was a St. Joe prep mom. Please welcome to Make a Difference, dear, dear friend, Cindy Griffin.
Coach, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing today? Thanks for the introduction, Phil. Wow.
Sin, we've been through a lot. We've been together a lot. I want to take the I went through everything over this weekend and two names jumped out. And I wonder if you could tell us their influence on you even today. Like today, you thought about Jim Foster and you thought about Patty Coyle. Cindy worked for Jim at Vanderbilt, worked for Patty at Loyola. What's their influence on you daily?
Yeah, I mean, they're every day. You think about Jim, you think about Patty, and just how they did things. I think with Jim, first and foremost, playing for him and then coaching with him at Vandy, just gave me a different perspective of how to run practice, how to manage players. And I think the biggest takeaway was everybody's different, even though you want to treat everybody the same, but you have to treat everybody fairly. And I think that's the big thing, because these players are coming from different backgrounds. They're coming from different countries, right? They're coming from different cultures. And I think if anybody did it the best, I would say Jim did it the best, and just making sure that we all had that common ground of understanding and, being able to put basketball as the common ground and enjoy playing with each other, with and for each other. And then I would say with Patty, I mean, I think it's attention to details. Everything that Patty did, there was detail oriented, from her practices to her game prep. And she certainly had a great sense of humor and had that Philly backcourt mentality. She was a point guard. She was a shooting guard. Her and her twin sister kind of ran the roost there at West Catholic, along with Renee Dunn Shields, and then went on to Rutgers to win a national championship. So just that competitive nature, I took a lot from Patty.
I know the background, but I would really, it would really be helpful for our audience here. Love of family and the influence that's had on your career.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't do this without my family. I think there's, you go into the profession of coaching, and you say, you love the sport. It did so much for you as a player, and you want to give that back to the players that you coach. I didn't know I was going to go into to coaching. I thought I was going to be an accountant, if you will. So, got my undergraduate in accounting, and then my master's in management. But one presented with the opportunity, and Jim Foster gave me that opportunity to go down and be an assistant coach at Vanderbilt. And then, I just knew that I wanted to have a family, and can you have a family in this business? And, I wanted to make it work. I wanted to have it all, if you will, and without my support staff, without my support of a great husband. My parents were very, very involved with raising our kids, but also just our players. Our players being around our family, and our players are our family, really. If you really want to talk about family and the impact that they have on you forever. You were talking earlier about just getting touched by former players, and they're your former players, but they're basically your kids, and I think that is what makes this profession so special, because you just expanded your family by hundreds, if you will. But yeah, very, very important to have a solid family, faith, and great friends. Obviously, you talked about that, but really grateful for having that support.
How about your upbringing in terms of Bishop McDevitt is closed, but if there was a family that exuded Bishop McDevitt and represented Bishop McDevitt, it would have been the Andersons. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of five. My sister Kim being the oldest, and me being the youngest, and then three boys in between. So the girls were the bookends, and Kim kind of set the tone as far as going to McDevitt. We could have gone to a couple different places growing up in Maple Glen. We could have gone to Archbishop Wood. We could have gone to Lansdale Catholic. But, she chose Bishop McDevitt because that's where her friends went. And so everybody followed suit. Kim was a two-sport athlete. She played basketball and softball. My brother Bob played basketball. Michael, John, they all played basketball. And so I just grew up wanting to be them and going to games. My mom dragging me to games, and I think my first game, truth be told, was when I was still a baby at Roman Catholic watching John Griffin play, my first cousin. So it's been in the blood for a long time.
Cindy, today's game, I think the people watching maybe got the Caitlin Clark bug. Where is the game beyond Caitlin Clark? I don't mean that disrespectfully, but there's a lot going on in the city of Philadelphia. There's a lot going on in the high schools in Philadelphia. Where is today's game, in your opinion?
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to talk about the Caitlin Clark effect because that's real. I think you looked at that, 2 years ago and you said, okay, wow, everybody's watching women's basketball. I would go to graduation parties. The same people that I've known for 100 years wouldn't ask me about basketball, and now all of a sudden they're asking me about women's basketball and how great it is. And I'm like, yeah, we've been here for a long time, guys. Thanks for noticing. But not to take that lightly, just again, not to take it for granted, but to build on that momentum. And you look at what the WNBA's expansion teams, that's how supportive you can see that women's basketball is, because you can't grow these teams without having the support. And the fact that we're going to get a WNBA team in 2030 is fantastic. I mean, we had the Philly Rage back in the late 90s, and I think that had a lot of momentum, but not the same type of momentum that's happening now. The Philly sisters have really backed this, the support for, and the mayor supporting the expansion team in Philly. So, I think the momentum is going in the right direction. I think in the local schools, we've had some really good years here at St. Joe's. I think Nova's had some really good years. Temple, you can go Drexel, LaSalle, Penn. So, I would just invite everybody to come out and watch women's basketball, watch the college players play, because I do think it's really pure. And I think, the game is just grown. I mean, the athletes that are out here today are a lot different than when I played 35 years ago.
One of the, and there were many, but one of the things that I always admired with your program was the engagement of alums. How much work does that take, and how much pride do you take in people wanting to come back to see you, to see your team, to see their school in a way?
Well, I think it's you always want everybody to know that this is their home. This is when they go out, they have their jobs, they have their families, but they can come back to Hawk Hill and they can feel that they're at home and they're part of this, part of our Hawk family. And we take a lot of pride in that. We designate, obviously we have our alumni days, but certainly trying to invite different players back, even just to speak to our team and share their experience, because again, paying it forward. I think we're all in that business of, we had a great experience. You're talking about being grateful, but how do we pay that forward, and how can their story possibly touch one of our players? And then you want that to carry over as the years go on. And so we do spend a lot of time thinking about that and making phone calls and connecting with alumni and bringing them back. But the most important thing is we want them to feel welcome.
Right there, that there was a gem in there. Like, one of their stories could touch any one of their players. And it could be a former manager or a manager who worked in the program, an assistant coach. That unbelievable. That was brilliance when you talk about somebody on your current team will make that connection. That's the beauty. It was remarkable to have a front row seat to watch that. So, Sin, here you go. Put your mom hat on. Come on. Brag about those kids of yours. Tell us all about it.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Really? You want to be?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Well, I do want to give you a shout out because I think Kaylee was on your TV show, as a toddler. So just to tell you how old we're all getting. So Kaylee is 22, and she is a fifth-year senior here at St. Joe's, playing for me and the Hawks. So she's doing great. She's pharmaceutical science undergrad, getting her master's in industrial pharmaceutical science. So she's doing great. And then Hannah Catherine, she's at 20 years old, and she's a junior up at Holy Cross playing basketball. She was I guess you could say a recruited walk-on, if you will, and she ended up starting for them last night against Duke. So she's making a way for herself in that Patriot League, and she's doing great. And then our Curtis John, who's 17, who goes to St. Joe Prep, and he's a junior there and thriving and loves it. So he drank the juice that you all drink down there at the Prep. So
You left out when you said St. Joe Prep, followed by the finest high school in America, but you left that part out.
Cindy, he hasn't told me yet. There's some kind of, they're cutting him a check for the amount of prep, propaganda he's slipping into these shows. I don't know what it looks like, but he loves that place, man.
But believe me, it's the other way around. It's just lessening the check that they want me to write.
Yep. Yeah. And then Curtis, my husband, retired now, superintendent, and he's living his best life.
And he's the first guy that I've reached out to when I started Make a Difference, the speaking part of it. It was phenomenal, the people that he put me in touch with. And he's a gentleman. He is really, really a gentleman. And special family. Your girls played together in high school, yes?
They did. Yep. Yeah, it was fun.
It's a tremendous feeling. And it's misunderstood about people. People will say to coaches, oh, you're always working. Yeah, but we're also in a situation where we control our own schedule. So you can move, right? You can move it around to say, well, I need to be at that honors assembly. And I'm not saying you short your team in any way, but you put your schedule together saying, you know what, on that Thursday, there's a mom-daughter breakfast. Well, that's on my calendar. We can work practice around that. That was always my thing about coaches. They would say, yeah, it's a lot, but you also have control of your own schedule, which is nice because, the guy paving 95, he can't go to the kids' honor society. So it is special. Sin, a player, if there's one, if there's more, who has affected you the most profoundly, whether at Vanderbilt, Loyola, or at St. Joseph's?
One I coached or one I played with, or either? Yeah. I mean, I would say, there's so many of them, but I would say Susan Morin. I think I got to only coach her for 1 year. It was my first year. And she has, she did great things, Atlantic 10 Player of the Year, and went on to play for the New York Liberty for 3 years. But, had to learn a different position. She was a forward for us, and she had to learn how to be a guard, and had a nice professional career. And then went on to coach with us for, she's been working with us for about 20 years now. And her role has changed. She's now a mom. She's got 3 kids, but still wanted to be part of the program. And just the impact, her attention to detail, her care for our program, for these players, it just goes beyond what, you sign up for to be a coach. She really, really, really is a professional, does things the right way. And I really is able to evolve with. We all have had to evolve with the change of not only things going on in your personal life, but also with the game and transfer portal, all those things. And I would say, Susan has been that player and person for me.
Remarkable person and great sense of humor. Cindy has a good sense of humor. Susan has a great sense of humor. We always end this segment with a question that refers back to the podcast itself. Who's made a difference in Cindy Griffin's life?
I would have to go with my husband, Curtis. And I say that because, I met him at just lost my brother, he passed away, and it was almost like this angel came down from heaven, and really put things in perspective for me, and was able to, obviously build a really strong relationship, build a family, and just allowed me to look at things a little bit differently, than maybe, just looking straight ahead and just kind of looking outside the box and thinking outside the box. So I would say he's the most influential for Cindy Griffin.
That might be a first.
I think
That's
so.
the first husband.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the first husband. But he is special guy, as is Cindy. Cindy, thank you for joining us. But more important than that, thank you for being my friend for such a long period of time.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you for being my friend, and you're doing great things. And thank you. I feel honored to be on Make a Difference.
Cindy, thank you so much.
All right. Take care, guys.
More terrific stuff. I love the family aspect of that. I think that's something you spoke about a little bit earlier. I mean, I would say maybe about 40 episodes ago at this point, but like the idea of trying to balance and juggle that family life. And you said that's something that you kind of had to learn over the course of your career. And she talks about how her family is thriving. I mean, obviously she's got a daughter right under her wing. She's got another playing college hoops, a son going through that high school process. So to kind of juggle all of that on top of the responsibilities you have as a coach, I think that's something we hope to instill upon any coaches listening to this, is like, you have to find that balance.
Not just any coach, but any leader, because you do in the position of leading, you end up it's everything else. It's everything else. It's the mission, it's the corporation, it's the school, it's the program, it's your latest project, whatever it would be. But the idea that, and I'm not a cliche guy, like happy home, happy, not all that kind of stuff. But that's your title. That's your title, right? The caretaker, the empathy, whatever it would be, whatever those characteristics would be, then take it to your work, right? You've heard me say many times, coaching is what Cindy Griffin does. It's not who she is. It's you were terrific as a high school TV reporter. That's not who you were. The value came through to others, that really good person. That matters more. That matters more than any record, any accolade, any W-2, whatever you drive. Everybody out there, what you do, separate what you do with who you are, and value who you are over what you do. So another good example.
Wonderfully said. And another terrific guest in the books here with Make a Difference.
We're like the old-fashioned meat counter in the store. All right, who's next? 55. But 55 is going to get the same service as number 1 on Make a Difference.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. But it is early in the season here. As we mentioned at the top of the show, there's, teams maybe have a few games under their belt, 1, 2, maybe 3. And I think it's worthwhile to check in on that little coach's corner and maybe get an early season tidbit that you've maybe seen so far.
Well, I have. I've obviously seen some practices. Been fortunate enough to do a broadcast at Villanova, see a couple of games in person featuring VCU. And what jumped into my mind, and also working through my academies, is this: assistant coaches. whatever you're doing in life, you're either a head coach or an assistant coach. So my suggestion comes to you with this. Go somewhere where you work with somebody, not for somebody. We are working for Make a Difference, but we're working with each other. You're an assistant coach at Villanova. You're working with Kevin Willard for Villanova. Go on and on and on. Go back to Dan Gavitt. Right? Dan Gavitt mentioned his staff. They're working for the NCAA. Joanne Scott is working with Dan Gavitt. And we all own and are responsible for the results. So that idea, everybody out there, assistant coach mentality, I'm working with you. What do they have to do, an assistant coach? You look there and you say, and there are so many now in both professional and college and in football, like all of those people, what could they possibly do?
I'm interested to know. So when you first got to St. Joe's as an assistant, correct me if I'm wrong, were you one of 3 assistants?
3 of us, yes.
Yeah. What was your staff by the time you left
Wasn't
Michigan?
Staff at Michigan? I had to go office by office. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Like actual basketball staff, yeah.
8. No. That's just basketball. I'm not counting the academic advisor who answers to you,
Mm-hmm.
the sports information people, the nutritionist, and no, I'm talking about 8 people every day would sit in a meeting to discuss basketball practice. There's only 12 players.
I'm bigger pond, obviously, but still,
No,
I mean, it's changed everywhere. I think,
So when you're in that position, again, you're an advisor. Really have to have listening skills. Right? Listening skills. You have to be a sharer. It cannot be, and I've been in some situations where somebody say, I recruited that guy. No. We recruited that guy. Or the school recruited that guy. But you have to be share responsibilities, share opinions, because you cannot be a yes man. It doesn't do anybody any good if Cindy Griffin's staff is just, yes, yeah, that's a great idea. Because they're all not great ideas. You have to have a greater good mentality to be an assistant coach. A greater good. The we over the me. We've talked about that. You have to have a healthy and a positive ego, because you want to look at something and say, I have an idea. I believe in my idea. That's a healthy ego and a positive ego. Not an ego where you're in recruiting and you say, Wyoming got that kid and it used to be for a long time. Well, then Wyoming cheated. And I'm just using Wyoming as an example, not a factual example. So you do have to have a feeling that I can get this. You also, as an assistant coach in any walk of life, need to be preparing for your opportunity. Because there's no assistant coach that woke up this morning and said, I'm delighted with being an assistant coach for the rest of my life. I'm delighted with being a vice principal for the rest of my life, or the assistant sales manager. No. What are you doing to prep for your opportunity when it comes along? I think it's a really big deal to be a connector. We talked to Cindy a little bit about the former player, the alumni players coming back. but you want to be a connector. If you're on a college campus, how connected are you with admissions? How connected are you with security? How connected are you with the academic advisors? Be a connector. Be seen as a connector. And yes, assistant coach can be your title, but it's much bigger than that. It's much bigger than that. So when you talk coaching corner, it always gets me turning to think about, what about all those people, non-athletic? I don't mean that they're non-athletic. I mean, they're not in athletics. Yeah. Make sure you're clear. Work with people, not for people.
I think it's a fascinating thing to think about, especially when you talk about understanding a role and putting an ego aside at times. I mean, for someone like yourself who was a head coach of a program for 24 seasons, and then you changed your role and became, an associate head coach. And I'm sure that was a different experience for you, kind of being, maybe instead of being the final say, being a part of a larger machine, right? That takes a lot of changing of a mindset and idea. Like, I'm sure you leaned on staff for a long, long time, but to then turn around and say, it's kind of a bit of a role reversal.
Find your voice.
Yeah.
And that was a challenge, to find my voice. The first thing you want to do is, if everybody else is, you want to jump in. Yeah. And you might not have even studied the subject, but you think, well, I have to use my voice. No. And in those positions, yes, use your voice, use your ears. We've talked over and over again about listening being a diminishing communication skill. We need to pick that up and make a difference. It's going to help people do that, because we're asking them to listen to where I've been, where I'm going, and we're going to do a little hybrid from now on where I've been and where I'm going.
Yeah, let's. I'd love to hear some highlights of.
Wow, and
I'm sure there's a few.
I'm going to start with this one. I had occasion last week to be in the presence of basketball royalty in Philadelphia. So all of those out there that have studied Philadelphia high school basketball, those that are of vintage age like myself, the greatest high school basketball player was Will Chamberlain in Philadelphia. And then you can start the argument, coming, going, and who's number two. But in this man's opinion, the second greatest high school basketball player went to West Philadelphia High School, went to Duke. Gene Banks. I was in his presence twice last week on the same day. Markwood luncheon, headed up by Joe Rabbi Rabzinski. He'll be with us in January to talk Markwood Club. It's the longest standing club that honors high school basketball players in this country. Joe Rabbi Rabzinski. And who was sitting right next to Gene Banks there, and also at the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame that night? Mo Howard. Great player at St. Joe Prep. Better teammate at St. Joe Prep. And a true brother of mine. So I had a chance to see both of them. Remarkable chance presented to me by Jimmy Lynch, who is the executive director, athletic director of the Philadelphia Public League. He invited me to present at the Public League Sports Leadership Institute. 400 coaches, bowling, wrestling, swimming, men's and women's basketball, cheer competitions, teams that will compete this winter. And I had a chance to present to them, and then they had a fair play presentation, and then the PIAA went through everything. It's a certification responsibility for the coaches. Had a chance. And then Shawnee High School, Mike Spear and Dylan Fields, the coaches at Shawnee, along with the Medford Recreation, invited us to bring our academy there and to go in Sunday. No birds, by the way, no birds on Sunday. So it was part of the draw. And we had 60 coaches, including 10 from Australia, in the gym doing drills with an 8th grade team. Thank you to everybody out there. And the academies will be back. That's just the highlights. I can't go day by day. We're not going to do that.
Well, we don't want a 2-hour-long podcast.
No, we can't do that. And then mix in, well, where will I be going? I'll have a chance to have done 2 Villanova games, Queens and Sacred Heart. So practices, shoot-arounds, game, production. St. Peter's VCU is this week. Headed down for that game. South Jersey man, Ken Dunnick, Eagle, not former Eagle, but an Eagle, runs a magazine, and he's putting on his Man and Woman of the Year. So I've been graciously invited to that. I have a luncheon with a dear friend, Steve Comley. Going to have a chance to visit with him, Steve, and his wife. And then Griffin Jeffries will be turning 7. I hope it's 7. I hope it's not 8, but I think it's 7. First grader. Followed that evening by his Disney Tunes show for kindergarten, first, and second graders at St. Mary Magdalene. And he doesn't even know it yet. But I volunteered to do one of my greatest hits as the grandfather, like they're going to call on a grandfather.
Oh, wow.
That's what he thinks is happening.
Are we getting, is there going to be video of this, or?
We'll probably, no cameras. No cameras. And then the Darren Dalton Foundation through Cindy Webster has invited me to their Bows and Bases Gala. They raise a lot of money for families battling brain cancer. And then the final session 6 of the Philadelphia Coaching Academy, Timber Creek High School, 9 to 12, Saturday morning. And again, youth coaches. If you know a youth coach, if you're interested in coaching, the content is gold. We're going to be joined by Joe Kessler and Janine Reynolds. They'll be the high school presenters. A 3-hour clinic. We start at 9 and we end at 12. And we're so amped up for 2026, but we want to finish 2025 with a bang. The challenge is this. There were 60 at Shawnee. We need 61 at Timber Creek. Let's get a little healthy competition.
Nothing wrong with a little healthy competition.
And there'll be other things mixed in there, but we're going to go with the more high. I like the hybrid. Give me a highlight, and then what's coming? What's really, really, really
something to keep an eye on.
And I like the emphasis on the friendship luncheon because it's a friend in need, and I can't wait to be there with them.
It's wonderfully said. And I want to say our thanks again to Cindy Griffin, terrific coach, a terrific friend, terrific leader. Wonderful for her to join us as the season gets underway. I know these coaches get very busy this time of year, so the time that they can spend chatting with us and, hopefully enlightening some folks listening and hopefully making a difference is really all we can ask for, right?
That's all we're trying to do. We just want to make a difference. One person, one cause at a time. Oh, and I almost forgot. At the Public League Leadership Institute, who's the first person that comes out of the audience to say hello? Shoot basketballs, not people.
Gary Mills.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
The connection, right? I guess they use synergy, the synergy. And he came to tell me that they have now gotten into a position where they're going to have billboards
Oh,
to help
awesome.
with their fundraising. Wow. Wow. Make a difference. Keep making a difference. And everybody out there, with all of these opportunities, the dip clip, the group helping with immigrants in Philadelphia, all of these wonderful opportunities. One person at a time, one idea at a time. We want to make a difference. So, a little bit extended. I'm going to have to start writing the names down and then bring them to the table earlier than the end of the show.
Oh, no. I mean, there's Gary's a Make a Difference Hall of Famer, I'd say.
Yep.
Someone that's truly making a special impact in the city of Philadelphia. And it's awesome you got to run into him again. He's definitely been in that same circle of ours for the past year, which has been awesome. We have another let me say education oriented guest coming up next week, which should be again a lot of fun. And hopefully we can learn something and maybe we can teach something in that episode that's coming up next week. Obviously, I gotta say, kind of a big one coming up. Now, by the time this episode airs, we'll have known the result. But I think you mentioned earlier about kind of seeing what I think we're going to learn a lot from a certain Philadelphia sports team in the next few weeks with what they have coming up. So,
sure you will.
Oh, your mind's set. Your mind's made up.
No, I have no idea, and I'm going to enjoy it from that side.
Fair.
Not go through the angst and anguish that you go through.
Hasn't been much anguish lately, but I think our friend of the show, Zach Berman, put it pretty correctly. I think if they stay on the field and they should be able to take care of business over these next few weeks. But starts with that Monday night game against the Packers coming off the bye. It should be fascinating to see how they.
So I think as we bridge this one, isn't it Packers and then Lions?
Packers, Lions, and then Cowboys. Yeah, going to learn a lot over the next. It's going to be a learning experience for all of Philadelphia over the next few weeks to see where they're really at.
You know what? Take it one day at a time.
One day at a time. If you're looking to help make a difference with Phil Martelli here, head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com. There's where you can learn more about his mission, making a difference in the classroom, in the workplace, on the court, or off the court. Tell Phil your story, and hopefully he can help you make a difference. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, at Make a Diff Pod on X. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate that 5-star rating. If you're looking for that Martelli Minute, that is at Phil_Martelli on Instagram every morning at 6:30 a.m. Our thanks again to Cindy Griffin. She was terrific, and we wish the Hawks best of luck this season. She's been doing it for a long time. She knows exactly what she's doing there, but early in the year, I hope that, appreciate her making the time for us. Appreciate any coach who makes the time for us, because this is where things start to get a little hectic in the college basketball realm.
Your schedule gets a little scattered.
Yeah, so spending 20-30 minutes chopping it up with us is much appreciated.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we have a few more coming down the pipeline this season to kind of mix in, because we're going to have our finger on the pulse all season of the college basketball world. So,
but as the college basketball season kicks off, we cannot walk away from Go Birds.
Go Birds.